He wasn't yelling. He wasn't angry. He was begging, silently, and nobody understood him, except her. You're about to hear a story that will stay with you long after it ends. Stay glued, click like, and hit that subscribe button. The lobby of the Millionaire Grand Hotel sparkled like a jewel box, golden light spilling across marble floors, chandeliers humming with quiet elegance, and a fragrance of jasmine woven into the air like a spell meant to soothe nerves. Most guests arrived and melted easily into the luxury, unwinding their travel-worn tension and adopting the unspoken rules of serenity. But on this particular evening, serenity was a fragile illusion. Staff whispered before the shift began. "The Russian VIP is checking in tonight. He booked the presidential wing. He's intense, very intense." Rumors, as they always did, arrived before the man. Viktor Sokolov stepped through the glass doors with the posture of a man who had spent a lifetime holding up walls no one else could see. Tall, well-built, sharply dressed in charcoal wool and a glinting silver watch, he looked like someone carved from winter itself. But the coldness wasn't intentional, it was protection. Behind his stern expression lived a tangle of things he never spoke about. A mother in a Moscow hospital, fighting an illness he wasn't ready to face. A legal battle consuming his business. A betrayal from a longtime friend eating away at his trust. A heart that hadn't relaxed in years. And above all, exhaustion. Deep, bone-heavy exhaustion. He approached the reception desk with clipped urgency. "Pozvonite," he exhaled sharply, frustrated, trying to assemble English words that felt clumsy in his mouth. "Please, call. My assistant. I sent message. Is important." The receptionist blinked, nervous. "Sir, I'm not sure I understand. Call whom?" Viktor rubbed his temples, muttered Russian under his breath, and gestured impatiently, not out of arrogance, but desperation. To everyone else, he looked like a storm, but inside, he felt like a man drowning. Across the lobby, Lila carried a polished tray toward the bar, weaving gracefully between guests. She wasn't dressed like the reception staff. She wore the sleek black uniform of the hotel's high-end dining lounge. But she had permission to move everywhere, and everyone liked her gentle presence. Lila knew the lobby better than most. She knew which guests faked smiles, who was newly heartbroken, who was celebrating something, and who carried invisible burdens. Maybe because she carried her own. She was fluent in 4 languages, English, Russian, Arabic, and French, yet most people only saw the name tag, not the mind behind it. She worked double shifts to support her younger brother's university tuition. She kept her dreams quiet because there wasn't space to chase them. And she had learned long ago, the world judges from surface level. People rarely look deeper. Voices like hers were easy to overlook. Tonight, she noticed Viktor Sokolov instantly, not because he was famous or wealthy, but because he looked like a man trying not to fall apart in public. Lila belonged everywhere and nowhere, present but invisible. Viktor belonged nowhere but was too noticeable to hide. She observed quietly. He battled silently. She listened to emotional tones. He was misunderstood by them. 2 strangers, 2 wounds, 2 languages of pain. Viktor's voice rose, strained, not aggressive. No, call the number I sent. Why you not understand? I need confirm arrangement before tonight." The receptionist, overwhelmed, took a step back. A couple nearby whispered, "Why is he shouting?" Another murmured, "Some rich people have no manners." Lila set her tray down slowly, eyes fixed on the scene. She heard what no one else did. His Russian muttering wasn't anger. It was panic, fear, heartache. She recognized the tone. She'd heard it in her own father's voice during the hardest years of their life. Victor's hand trembled slightly as he pressed his forehead. Gospodi, pomogi. God, help me. Lila's heart tightened. A manager approached Victor with stiff politeness, the type reserved for difficult VIPs. Sir, we need you to calm down. You're disturbing other guests. Victor looked up sharply, eyes flashing, not with entitlement, but disbelief. I am asking for help. I am not disturbing. He Englished faltered. His frustration mounted. I just need someone who understand. His voice cracked. Lila inhaled. This wasn't arrogance. This was a breaking point, and the room had misread everything. Victor stepped back from the counter, breathing unevenly, ready to give up communicating altogether. He pulled out his phone, jaw tight, clearly preparing to make a call he desperately didn't want to make. His shoulders sagged, defeat settling into his posture. Lila knew that look. She'd felt it herself. Being misunderstood is a lonely kind of ache. As he turned slightly, their eyes met for just a second. His looked cold to others, but she saw what lived underneath: confusion, helplessness, fear he couldn't voice. She froze, her heart beating faster, not romantically, but instinctively. She could help him, but stepping forward without being asked could cost her job. The manager was still watching. The receptionist wouldn't appreciate being corrected. Guests already had opinions. Lila swallowed hard. She had spent years staying silent to avoid trouble, but something inside her whispered, he needs someone who understands. And for once, she didn't look away. She took a step forward, small, hesitant, brave. Then another. The distance between them closed. She opened her mouth to speak. Just as Lila reached him, Victor turned sharply, misinterpreting her movement, and nearly collided with her. Her hand brushed hers. Her breath caught. For a moment, their worlds collided physically before they did emotionally. He blinked in surprise. She steadied her tray against her side. Sorry, he muttered automatically, the word soft, unexpectedly gentle. Their eyes locked again, swift, unpredictable, magnetic. Lila knew in that instant her next words would change everything. For him, for her, and for the entire room watching. And she couldn't shake the feeling that this man, this moment, this misunderstanding was about to unravel a story she wasn't prepared for. A story that would force both of them to confront themselves. A story neither chose, but both needed. She exhaled and spoke. Yamagu pomoch, I can help. The world seemed to stop. If you're enjoying this emotional journey already, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
For a heartbeat, no one moved. The lobby, once filled with hushed whispers and the clinking of glasses, fell into an almost reverent stillness as Lila's words hung in the air. Yamagu pomoch, I can help. Victor froze. The muscles in his jaw eased. His eyes softened. Not much, but enough for Lila to notice. It was the kind of shift only someone who understood Russian emotion could read. Vulnerability masquerading as tension. He blinked at her, almost startled. You speak Russian? Lila nodded cautiously, fluently. A few guests gasped quietly. Even the manager stiffened. It wasn't common to hear Russian spoken with the kind of smooth confidence Lila carried in her voice. Victor swallowed hard, a flicker of relief washing across his expression like warm sunlight cracking through storm clouds. Please, he said, voice low, almost pleading, I need to explain. Lila stepped closer, close enough to catch the uneven rhythm of his breathing. Close enough to feel the gravity of a man who'd been judged all his life. Lila shifted into interpreter mode with a gentleness that surprised everyone, including herself. She turned to the receptionist. He's not upset with you. He's saying he urgently needs confirmation that his assistant delivered important documents to the hotel. The receptionist's face softened. Oh, I thought, well, he looked. Lila smiled politely. He's had a long trip. Russian expression can be intense, even when the feeling isn't. Victor exhaled, the breath shaky, relieved to finally be understood. But behind that relief was something deeper, something rawer, an exhaustion he'd been carrying too long. Lila turned back to him, switching languages. «Что вы ищете? Что нужно подтвердить? What exactly are you trying to confirm?» He raked a hand through his hair. «Документы. Очень важные документы. Они должны были прибыть сегодня утром». Documents, very important ones. They were supposed to arrive this morning. Lila translated, and the receptionist suddenly brightened. Oh, we did receive a sealed package. It's in the secure holding room. Victor's eyes widened with visible relief. His shoulders dropped. For the first time since he entered the lobby, he breathed, really breathed. But the moment wasn't over. Behind him, a woman scoffed loudly. Still no reason to bark orders at people. Lila froze. So did Victor. He heard it. He understood enough English to know he was being insulted. Lila turned toward the woman slowly. "Ma'am," she said, gently but firmly, he wasn't barking orders. He was trying to ask for help in a language he doesn't speak well. The receptionist's face faltered. "Well, he seemed scared," Lila finished, "not angry." Every whisper in the lobby died instantly. A truth had been spoken that no one expected. Victor stared at Lila as if seeing her for the first time, not just as someone who spoke his language, but someone who understood the emotional subtext he never learned to express. His voice shook slightly. "You saw that?" Lila nodded once. "You weren't angry. You were overwhelmed." He swallowed hard. No one, absolutely no one, ever said that to him. Most people only saw the powerful exterior, the cold businessman, the hardened achiever, the man who never flinched, never hesitated, never cracked. But Lila saw the man beneath the armor. Something inside him shifted. He looked away quickly, as if the eye contact suddenly felt too intimate. "Spasiba. Thank you." Lila wasn't sure he'd ever said the words with so much sincerity. As the receptionist retrieved his package, Lila stood quietly beside him, not intruding, but not withdrawing either. The silent space between them carried its own energy, tension threaded with curiosity. "Are you staying long?" she asked gently. 3 days, maybe 4. He paused. "Depends on situation." Lila nodded. She didn't press. She sensed that his situation wasn't something he shared with anyone casually. A fleeting sadness crossed his eyes, there and gone, but she caught it. She always caught the things other people missed. When the receptionist returned with a secure envelope, Victor took it with careful hands, as if it contained both salvation and fear. "Everything should be in order now," she said. But Victor didn't look relieved. He looked devastated. Lila's breath hitched. She recognized the look instantly. A man holding papers that confirmed something he hoped would not be true. She whispered, "Bad news?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat tightened, and he stared at the envelope like it was a verdict. Lila stepped closer, instinctively. "Mr. Sokolov, can I get you a glass of water, or maybe just sit with you for a moment?" The offer was soft, human, brave, and it disarmed him completely. "Why are you being kind to me?" His voice was barely audible. Lila blinked. The question wasn't rude. It was heartbreaking. "Because you need it," she said simply. Victor looked away sharply, but she saw the faint shimmer in his eyes, the kind he would never allow to fall. A manager approached with a clipboard in hand. "Lila, I need you back in the dining lounge. You're late for the table rotation." Lila straightened. "Yes, sir." Victor turned to her quickly. He didn't know why, but he didn't want her to leave. Not yet. "Thank you," he said again, voice rough, "for everything." She offered a small, warm smile. "I'm around if you need anything." Then she walked away, graceful, steady, unaware that Victor's gaze followed her until she disappeared behind the curved archway of the dining hall. He'd come to the hotel for work, not connection. He expected to be judged, not understood. He'd built walls to keep people out, not knowing someone might see over them. He pressed his thumb against the edge of the envelope. The news inside could ruin everything, and for the first time in years, he wished he didn't have to face it alone. The lobby buzzed with resumed conversation, but Victor felt suspended in a different reality, one where a stranger's kindness had shaken him more than any business crisis. He whispered to himself, "Kto ona? Who is she?" Tell me in the comments which moment hit hardest, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
The dining lounge glowed under warm amber lights as the dinner rush approached. Lila moved between tables with practiced grace, her motions fluid, controlled, yet her mind was nowhere near the clinking glasses or murmured conversations. Her thoughts kept circling back to the moment in the lobby, to the pain she'd seen in Victor's eyes, to the question he asked, "Why are you being kind to me?" and the way it had cracked something open inside her. But she forced herself to focus. She had boundaries, she had rules, she had a life too full for entanglements, especially with a man like him. Across the hotel, Victor hadn't moved from the private seating area near the tall window. He held the envelope in his lap, unopened. His phone buzzed twice, his assistant, then his business partner, but he ignored them both. He couldn't shake the memory of Lila's voice, her calmness, her understanding, and that terrified him more than the potential disaster in the documents he held. He wasn't here to connect with anyone. He wasn't here to feel understood. He wasn't here to be vulnerable. He was here to fix a crisis and leave. Yet his mind replayed the moment she'd stood up to the judging guests. No one had done that for him before. He closed his eyes, exhaling sharply. Enough. He wasn't a man who got distracted. He wasn't weak. He could handle his own problems. He told himself he didn't need her. 30 minutes later, he pushed himself to stand and walked toward the elevators, but something pulled his attention sideways, the soft melody drifting from the dining lounge, a piano piece played by the hotel musician. He didn't know the song, but the sound tugged him like a memory half-formed. Before he realized it, he was standing at the entrance to the lounge, peering inside. Then he saw her. Lila stood by a couple's table, explaining a wine selection with quiet finesse. Her voice was gentle, her posture poised, her smile warm but slightly tired. Something inside Victor tightened. Curiosity, gratitude, fear. He should keep walking. He should go to his suite. He should open the envelope. He should call his assistant. Instead, he lingered, watching her, just for a moment. Her eyes lifted and caught his. He stiffened. She faltered. A second stretched between them like a fragile thread. Lila recovered first, turning quickly back to her guests. Victor hesitated, then forced himself to walk away. He needed distance. Lila took a breath, steadying herself as she moved to the next table, but her composure was cracked. Why was he watching her like that? Why did she care? Why did her stomach flutter like she'd swallowed a spark? She didn't know him. She shouldn't worry about him. Her job demanded emotional neutrality, and Viktor Sokolov was the definition of complications she didn't have room for. She reminded herself of that all the way to the staff hallway until she heard rushing footsteps behind her. "Lila!" She turned. It was Jenna, another waitress, frantic. "Private dining room 3, problem guest. He's demanding someone who speaks Russian." Lila blinked. "What?"
He said he needs a Russian speaker immediately, or he'll complain to management. They sent me to get you." Lila's heart dropped. Another Russian guest? Or is it the man from earlier? The millionaire? No, different guy. He said his English is limited and he'll only deal with someone who understands him. Lila exhaled in relief and then in dread, because she knew exactly what she was walking into. Russian guests were usually intense, often blunt, sometimes rude, especially stressed, and this one was already upset. She felt the walls closing in. Not tonight. Please, not tonight. But her shift didn't care about her feelings. They needed her. She had to go. She walked to the private dining room, steadying her breath, preparing for confrontation. He entered his suite and shut the door, the envelope still unopened. He stared at it, willing himself to face the truth. Both felt the same pressure. Both felt the same heaviness. Both tried to bury their emotions. Neither succeeded. The private dining room door clicked shut behind Lila. Inside sat a Russian middle-aged man, irritated, tapping his fingers impatiently. "Наконец-то!" he snapped the moment he saw her. Finally! He wasn't cruel, just stressed, but the tone hit her nerves. She translated his demands, handled his complaints, smoothed over misunderstandings, but all the while her mind drifted back to Victor, his trembling breath, his gratitude, his question. She finished the interaction with composure, but something felt different. Because for the first time, she wasn't just translating words, she was translating her own turmoil. When she left the private room, the hallway was empty, quiet, dimly lit, peaceful, until it wasn't. She heard footsteps turning the corner and froze. Victor. He wasn't storming, he wasn't desperate, he wasn't guarded. He looked conflicted, like a man who wanted to walk away and walk toward her at the same time. They stopped a few feet apart. Victor cleared his throat. "I didn't mean to stare earlier." Lila's heartbeat skipped. "It's all right." He hesitated. Then, softly, "Thank you again for helping me." She nodded. "Any time." Silence stretched, warm, uneasy, charged. They both opened their mouths, then closed them, unsure what to say. For a moment it felt like the world narrowed to just them. But then Victor's phone rang loudly. He flinched, glanced at the screen, his expression darkened. "Excuse me," he murmured, stepping away. Lila watched him go, feeling an ache she couldn't explain. Whatever news waited in that call was about to pull him deeper into darkness, and she had no idea why she suddenly cared so much. As Victor answered the call, his voice dropped into a low, shaking whisper. Lila retreated slowly back toward the dining lounge, but every instinct inside her told her something was wrong. She wouldn't avoid him, not truly, not for long. Circumstances had thrown them together once more, and something told her it wouldn't be the last time tonight.
The storm outside had rolled in fast, dark clouds pressing against the tall windows, rain lashing the glass in frantic rhythms. Lightning flashed over the city skyline, illuminating the Moraine Grand Hotel like a palace suspended in thunder. Lila didn't notice any of it. She couldn't stop thinking about the expression on Victor's face when he took that call. Tight, shaken, quietly devastated. Something had shifted inside him, and though she didn't know what, she felt the echo of it in her own chest. Her shift was nearly over, but exhaustion pushed heavy into her bones. She leaned briefly against a counter, closing her eyes. "Rough night?" Jenna asked, tying her apron. Lila forced a smile. "Just a lot." "A lot," Jenna repeated knowingly. "And a certain Russian millionaire staring at you like you understand his soul isn't helping, huh?" Lila's breath caught. "Jenna!" "What? I have eyes." Jenna grinned. "You two have tension." Lila rolled her eyes, but her pulse jumped. "It's not like that. I just helped him, that's all." but Jenna winked. Sure. Lila turned away, cheeks warm, desperately trying to convince herself the same thing. In his suite, Victor sat hunched on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, knuckles white. His assistant's voice still echoed in his head. "Victor, your mother's condition has worsened." The rest of the call was a blur, medical updates, urgent recommendations, paperwork he needed to sign remotely, flights that needed booking, but the words that wouldn't leave him were the simplest ones. She asked if you were coming home. He wanted to, he needed to, but he couldn't, not yet, not with the legal issue waiting in the envelope he still hadn't opened. The storm outside rumbled. He stood up abruptly, pacing the room. He needed air. He needed clarity. He didn't know what he needed, but he knew who he kept thinking about. The storm worsened. Lightning flashed violently, thunder rattling the chandeliers. Suddenly, a transformer outside burst with a blinding spark. The lights throughout the hotel flickered once, twice, then shut off completely. Darkness swallowed everything. Guests gasped, a child cried, a waiter dropped a tray in the dining lounge. Emergency generators hummed to life, but only partial power returned, enough for dim hall lights, not enough for kitchen equipment or the central lounge. Managers rushed through the lobby. "Everyone remain calm. We are moving high-priority guests to the second-floor lounge." Lila had just clocked out standing near a service hallway when the emergency lights kicked on. Her heart quickened. A blackout meant chaos. Chaos meant miscommunication. Miscommunication meant panic. Before she could even process it, the lounge manager approached her breathlessly. "Lila, I need your help." She blinked. "But my shift is over." "I know, but one of the international guests refuses to move without someone who speaks Russian. We can't afford a scene in the dark." Lila stiffened. She didn't need to ask who. "Is it Viktor Sokolov?" she murmured. "Yes, he's refusing assistance. We need you to escort him to the second-floor emergency lounge." Lila swallowed hard. Forced proximity, exactly what she was trying, unsuccessfully, to avoid. But she nodded. You didn't say no during a crisis. She found Victor standing near a tall pillar, shadowed in emergency light, gripping his phone so tightly the case bent slightly. His expression was distant, like a man balancing on the edge of a decision he wasn't prepared to make. "Mr. Sokolov?" she said softly. He turned sharply, surprise flickering through his features, then relief, then something else she couldn't name. "Lila." The sound of her name in his accent made her chest tighten. "The management needs all guests relocated to the second-floor emergency lounge," she explained. "It's brighter, safer, and closer to the generator backup." "I'm fine here," he muttered. "You're alone in the dark. You're not fine." His jaw clenched. "You don't know what I am." She stepped closer hesitantly. "I know enough." He exhaled shakily. "You shouldn't have to keep helping me," he whispered. "I'm not doing it because I have to." Silence. Heavy, thick, electric. She offered her hand. He stared at it, confused. "For balance," she said. "The stairs are dark." He didn't move at first. Then, slowly, almost reverently, he placed his palm against hers. Warm, strong, shaking fightly. The contact hit them both with unexpected force. Something fragile, something tender, something neither was ready to admit. They walked together towards the stairs, her hand guiding him through the dim corridor. Thunder cracked through the sky, the stairwell illuminated for a split second by lightning. He flinched. She tightened her grip. "It's okay," she murmured. He swallowed hard. No one comforted him like that. Not in years. The second-floor emergency lounge glowed softly with backup lights, low, warm, almost intimate. Guests settled into plush chairs, some murmuring anxiously about the blackout. Victor stopped near a corner window, still holding Lila's hand without realizing it. She gently slipped her fingers away. "So, this is where you stay until they fix the power," she said, offering a small smile. He didn't smile back. His expression had turned serious, aching, almost fragile. "Lila," he said quietly, "may I ask you something?" Her heart skipped. "Of course." He hesitated, then, "Why did you come for me?" She blinked. "I was sent." "That is not what I asked." His eyes, illuminated by the faint orange glow, held hers with raw intensity. "Why did you come for me?" Lila felt every wall she'd built start to tremble. "Because you looked like you were breaking. Because you don't let anyone help you. Because I saw myself in your loneliness. Because something about you pulls me in and it scares me." She couldn't say any of that, so she said the safest truth. "Because no one should be alone in the dark." Victor inhaled sharply. Emotion flickered across his face. Pain, hope, fear, all tangled. He opened his mouth to speak again, but suddenly a sudden flash of light illuminated the room, lightning cutting across the sky. Lila gasped. Victor instinctively reached out, steadying her arm. Their faces were close, too close. The tension softened into something warm, and in that softness, a fragile bond began to form. A bond neither of them was prepared for, a bond that would change both their lives. Just as the moment settled between them, Victor's phone buzzed again, an international number, urgent. He looked at the screen, his face drained of color. Lila's breath hitched. Something was wrong, very wrong. He whispered, "It's the hospital." The fragile bond shattered into fear, and Act 4 ends with the thunderstorm outside, matched by the storm about to crash into Victor's life. If this gripped your heart, hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe.
The morning after the banquet disaster, the Belvedere Hotel was drowned in a hush that felt unusually heavy. Even the marble floors, usually shimmering with the footsteps of confident guests, seemed cold, uninviting, and hollow. Elena moved quietly through the staff corridors, her chest tight, replaying the moment she stormed out of the ballroom. She had never walked away from a guest before, let alone one she felt so deeply connected to. But the look in Mikhail's eyes when he accused her of choosing the hotel over him, that was the part that hurt the most. She pushed open the staff locker room door and finally exhaled. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, all she saw was his face, confused, wounded, angry. Not the arrogant kind of anger she'd first witnessed when he arrived at the hotel, but something else. Fear. Fear of losing the one person who finally understood him. She sat on the bench, elbows on her knees, and whispered to herself, "I didn't betray you. I just didn't know how to stay." But it was too late, or so she believed. Mikhail stood in the rain. Again, the same rain that had dripped from his hair the first night. They truly looked at each other. The same rain that made his suit cling to his skin. But now, he wasn't outside the hotel. He was outside Elena's apartment. He didn't know how he got there, only that his feet had carried him while his heart demanded answers. His driver kept telling him to get inside the car, but every time a man reached for an umbrella, Mikhail brushed him off. "Leave it, please." 2 simple words, but spoken with a gravity that silenced the driver completely. Mikhail's chest rose and fell with slow, tortured breaths. He didn't even know if she was home. He didn't know what he would say. All he knew was that he couldn't leave things the way they were. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the napkin Elena had scribbled on weeks ago, a quick Russian translation she had given him when he struggled to explain his dietary restrictions to the kitchen. Just a napkin, a meaningless object to anyone else. But to him, it was proof that someone finally had seen the human inside the man everyone else called difficult, strange, cold, intimidating. He pressed the napkin against his forehead and let the rain soak it. "Elena, please." Elena was called to the lobby. Her manager waved her over with urgency. "Please prepare yourself," he said. adjusting his tie nervously. "There's an official notice from Mr. Antonoff." Her heart nearly stopped. Mikhail's last name. Antonoff. All the air left her lungs at once. Her manager continued. "It appears Mr. Antonoff is canceling his long-term suite. He has paid out his contract, penalties and all, and requested immediate checkout." Elena felt something inside her crumble. "He's leaving," she whispered. "Yes, immediately. His luggage is already gone. He departed about 20 minutes ago." Her hands trembled. Her knees weakened. It wasn't the pain of him leaving. It was the realization that she had pushed him to it, that she had become another person who didn't stay, didn't listen long enough, didn't ask what he needed. The irony burned. She had understood everyone else's silence her whole life. Yet, when it mattered most, she couldn't understand his. She didn't waste another second. She grabbed her coat, her bag, and ran. Outside the hotel, she saw a sleek black car turning the corner onto the main road. Her heart lurched. "Mikhail!" she shouted. Her voice cracked violently in the air. The driver slowed, just for an instant, long enough for her to hope. But then he turned the corner and disappeared. Elena stood frozen on the sidewalk, breathless, her hands pressed against her lips. She had lost him, for real. Mikhail stood under the faint glow of a street lamp near Elena's building. His phone buzzed. He almost ignored it, but something made him check the caller ID. "Belvedere Hotel, front desk." He answered. A trembling voice rushed through the speaker. "Mr. Antonoff, she ran after your car. She's trying to find you." Everything inside him stilled. The rain suddenly didn't feel cold. His heart didn't feel heavy. He murmured something in Russian, soft, stunned, disbelieving. "Ona vybrala menya." She chose me. Elena reached her apartment building steps just as a black car screeched to a stop behind her. Her breath caught. She turned slowly. Mikhail stepped out, still soaked, still shaking, still holding the napkin she had written on. They stared at each other across the rain-slicked pavement. No hotel lobby watching. No judgmental eyes. No misinterpretations. No barriers. Just the two of them. He walked to her, each step heavy with meaning, as if approaching something sacred. "Elena," he began, voice breaking. "Everything I said last night, I wasn't angry at you. I was angry at losing something I didn't know how to keep." She covered her mouth with her hand, tears rising. "I thought I hurt you," she whispered. "You did," he admitted gently. "And I hurt you. We're both guilty." He stopped in front of her, close enough for her to feel his shaking breaths. "But Elena, when you left that ballroom, I realized something." His fingers tightened around the napkin. "You were the first person who ever understood me, and the first person I was terrified of losing." Elena's tears finally fell. "Mikhail, I didn't leave you. I just didn't know where to stand." He closed the distance between them. "You stand," he murmured, lifting her chin. "Right here, with me." She pressed her forehead to his, rain dripping between them. "I'm tired of people misunderstanding you," she whispered. "I'm tired of watching you carry everything alone." His voice cracked. "I don't want to be alone anymore." And for the first time, not as a millionaire, not as a guest, not as a difficult foreigner, not as a misunderstood man, but simply as Mikhail, he folded into her arms. Elena placed her hand over Mikhail's on the table, calming him, grounding him, speaking in his language when no one else could. Now, in the rain, he repeated the gesture. He placed his hand over hers. Warm, protective, grateful. "Spasibo, Elena," he whispered. "Thank you for seeing me." She smiled through tears. "Spasibo for letting me." They stood together, clinging to each other as if making up for every misunderstanding, every moment of distance, every wound neither of them had words for. The rain kept falling, but it didn't drown them this time. It washed everything clean. For the first time, they weren't Waitress and Millionaire, not hotel staff and difficult guest, not two strangers from different worlds, just two souls who had finally found someone who listened. If this moved you, tap like, drop a comment about your favorite moment. and subscribe for more emotional storytelling.